Real-world assets are emerging as the next top narrative in the crypto market.
The next big thing.
And this is not surprising given how much asset managers like Blackrock have been talking about tokenizing assets in recent weeks. What is surprising, though, is how much they have been getting involved in RWA cryptos. And as a blue chip in this niche, Ondo Finance stands to benefit, particularly because it has close ties to the Trump administration. And that's why today we're going to explain what Ondo Finance is, how it works, what it's planning, and how high its Ondo token could go as a result.
Spoiler alert.
It could have incredible potential. My name is Nick. Stay tuned. I'll start by saying that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's educational content intended to inform you about Ondo Finance. I'll also note that nobody at the Coin Bureau team holds Ondo in their personal portfolios at the time of shooting, but you can rest assured we will be as objective as possible, as always. If you want to know which cryptos we hold and which ones we're personally considering accumulating, you can find out by becoming a member of the Coin Bureau Club. That's where we do weekly deep dives into promising altcoins that could become big. Existing members will know that we covered Mantra DAO last June before it got big, and since that time it has gone up by 10x. And it's not the first altcoin gem we've found, and it definitely won't be the last. So if you want to get early on the next big thing, then become a member of the Coin Bureau Club using the link down below. With that said, the history of Ondo Finance begins with Nathan Almond and Pinku Suramu. Nathan got into crypto as a trader during the 2017 cycle and traded crypto until 2019 when he joined Goldman Sachs' digital asset division. In 2020, Nathan dabbled in DeFi as part of his work at the megabank. But of course, Nathan didn't want to just dabble, he wanted to ape in, something that he couldn't do due to things like strict regulations. He eventually decided to launch Ondo Finance in 2021, and it initially focused on making DeFi protocols more capital efficient through arbitrage and other such activities. It seems that it wasn't until 2022 that Ondo Finance started turning its focus towards real-world assets. And this could explain why Pinku left around that time. Like Nathan, Pinku had been dabbling in crypto since the 2017 cycle and worked at Goldman Sachs prior to founding Ondo Finance. The difference is that Pinku was a blockchain developer and not a trader, and apparently he wasn't at all interested in RWAs. In any case, before pivoting to RWAs, Ondo had raised $4 million from VCs in 2021. It raised an additional $20 million from top-tier crypto VCs in 2022, including Peter Thiel's Founders Fund. For context, Peter has been heavily involved in the Trump administration, both indirectly as part of the so-called PayPal mafia and directly by reportedly bankrolling JD Vance's political career. And you can learn more about that using the link in the description. Now, Ondo Finance went on to raise an additional $10 million in a CoinList sale in 2022. This put it in the perfect position to finance its RWA ambitions, which became evident in early 2023 with the launch of its tokenized treasuries and corporate bonds. By mid-2023, Ondo Finance had launched its USDY stablecoin. As you might have guessed, USDY is a stablecoin backed by US government debt and earns a yield from the US treasuries that back it. For reference, most stablecoins are backed by US government debt. However, USDY is one of the few that shares some of the yield with token holders. USDY has since become Ondo Finance's flagship product, along with OUSG, its tokenized treasury offering. And notably, USDY is almost twice as large as OUSG, and this is partially a consequence of the differences in requirements around investing in USDY versus OUSG, which we'll explain in a bit. USDY's growth also appears to be due to Ondo Finance doubling down on its growth over the last year or so. It's expanded to over half a dozen blockchains, including non-EVM chains like Sui and Solana. It has also started targeting more use cases like trading, savings, and payments. Most importantly, Ondo Finance has been integrating with other crypto projects and protocols that are positioning themselves for payments, such as PayPal's PYUSD stablecoin. Another thing Ondo announced last November was its integration with Layer 0 to take USDY cross-chain. For those unaware, Layer 0 is one of the few crypto projects that PayPal has invested in, and it's also using its interoperability protocol to take its PYUSD stablecoin cross-chain. And I'll remind you that the so-called PayPal mafia has a strong presence in the Trump administration. When you combine this with the fact that Trump's DeFi protocol, World Liberty Financial, purchased some Ondo tokens last December, that Ondo Finance sponsored Trump's inauguration, and that the Trump administration is in the process of passing regulations favorable to stablecoins and RWAs, it paints an extremely bullish picture for Ondo. And by the way, guys, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to smash that like button to let us know. And you'll want to subscribe and ping the notification bell as well to make 100% sure you don't miss the next one. Now, this ties into how Ondo Finance works. Per its documentation, Ondo Finance consists of two arms, its asset management arm and its technology arm. Together, these two manage Ondo Finance's two products, which you'll recall are USDY stablecoin and OUSG tokenized treasuries. Both products are available on multiple chains, but mainly Ethereum. Interestingly though, USDY trades mostly on SWI. Obviously, accessing these products requires being onboarded by Ondo Finance, which includes not just KYC, but also an assessment of your net worth depending on the product. USDY is accessible to all non-US individuals and organizations, while OUSG is restricted to all qualified investors, aka rich folks. Specifically, a net worth of over $5 million as an individual or assets of over $25 million as an institution. Both products can be minted using dollars or stablecoins and can be redeemed for dollars or stablecoins, with USDC being the only supported stablecoin for the time being. PYUSD will likely follow given their relationship. What's interesting is that each product comes with its own peculiar limitations. In the case of USDY, the token is only minted and becomes available after 40 to 50 days, but can be transferred to any wallet. In the case of OUSG, it can be transferred immediately, but the token can only be transferred to whitelisted wallets. In other words, USDY is permissionless and OUSG is permissioned. Both products also come in two settings, accumulating or rebasing. The default USDY and OUSG tokens are accumulating, meaning that their prices increase gradually in accordance with their yield. RUSDY and ROUSG are rebasing, meaning that the price stays the same, but the quantity of the tokens you hold increase in accordance with their yield. Ondo Finance users can seamlessly swap between the two. Besides their limitations, the primary difference between USDY and OUSG is how they're backed. USDY is backed by short-term US treasuries offered by asset manager StoneX. These reserves are managed by Morgan Stanley, and Ondo Finance keeps USDY 3% over-collateralized to account for any market volatility. For those unfamiliar, short-term US treasuries, aka short-term government debt, is extremely liquid, meaning it can be traded in large amounts without moving the price much. And this is why short-term US treasuries are referred to as cash equivalents. Their price stays stable compared to other assets. Like most stablecoin issuers, Ondo Finance provides daily and monthly attestations of the reserves backing USDY, which, I should note, are not the same as an audit. Unlike most stablecoin issuers, though, Ondo Finance's USDY stablecoin is regulated by FinCEN as of March last year, making it slightly more legit. The catch is that redeeming the USDY stablecoin apparently isn't a very smooth process. Ondo Finance's documentation specifies that redeeming USDY for stablecoin or fiat involves submitting a request, and that processing this redemption can take up to 5 business days. And not only that, but early redemptions, i.e. redeeming before USDY is minted and becomes transferable, quote, may take a bit longer. This is in stark contrast to OUSG, which is backed mainly by Blackrock's BUIDL fund, which is a tokenized money market fund on multiple chains, although mainly on Ethereum. And FYI, money market funds are basically stablecoins for institutions. Like stablecoins, they're backed by short-term US government debt. Unlike stablecoins, money market funds earn a yield, and hence why they're so popular. Regardless, aside from BlackRock's BUIDL, OUSG is backed by BlackRock's Fed Fund and USDC, which makes sense given that USDC's reserves are also managed by BlackRock. This arrangement makes it possible for OUSG to be minted and redeemed instantly for USDC, 24/7. The catch, in this case, is that instant redemption is limited to $50 million every 24 hours, with a $25 million limit for single users. Obviously, OUSG can also be minted and redeemed for US dollars, and Ondo Finance's documentation specifies that minting and redeeming take just one business day. To be fair, this appears to be a consequence of the arguably unfair financial regulations for accredited versus non-accredited investors. On that note, you might have noticed that I haven't mentioned anything about the Ondo token yet, and this is because Ondo Finance's products and the Ondo token are two separate things, legally speaking. Whereas Ondo Finance is owned and operated by Ondo Finance Incorporated, a software company in New York, the Ondo token is governed by the Ondo Foundation, a non-profit based in the Cayman Islands. And this relates to Ondo's tokenomics. Ondo is an ERC20 token on the Ethereum blockchain. It's used to govern Ondo Finance and Flux Finance, a DeFi lending and borrowing protocol that leverages Ondo's products. Oddly enough, though, there have apparently been no governance proposals for either protocol for over a year, and Ondo does not seem to have any other utility, at least at the time of shooting. Whatever the case, Ondo has a maximum supply of 10 billion, which was allocated as follows: roughly 15% to investors, 33% to protocol development, which appears to include the team, and 52% to ecosystem growth. The Ondo token effectively launched in January 2024 after a governance vote. The vesting schedule for Ondo can be seen right over here. You'll notice it has large vesting cliffs occurring roughly once per year after the token launch. And you'll also notice that the allocations to early investors and the team are locked for the first 12 months, which is fascinating as the first vesting cliff just happened. What's crazy is that you can clearly see this vesting cliff when looking at Ondo through the lens of market cap. Ondo's market cap has more than doubled in the last week of January, which is truly crazy. The good news is that the next vesting cliff won't occur until January next year. The bad news is that there could be a change to tokenomics that allow for insiders to maximize their returns much sooner. For example, it's possible that Ondo Finance could announce staking rewards for Ondo holders, including those with Ondo that's still vesting. Similarly, the protocol could be adjusted to allow for a buyback and burn of tokens. Make no mistake, something along these lines is likely given all of the changes in crypto regulations we've seen in the US. Ondo's potential ultimately depends on exactly that, changes to crypto regulations in the US. In case you forgot, non-US individuals and organizations are not allowed to access the USDY stablecoin under current regulations. And this is something that could be easily changed under the Trump administration, especially since Ondo Finance has connections to key players in the administration. In our view, allowing US individuals and organizations to access the USDY stablecoin could be massive because it's clear that it's objectively superior to most stablecoins in circulation. It appears to have the most transparent reserves and offers a customizable yield set up for its holders, USDY or RUSDY. In theory, this makes USDY the ideal stablecoin for things like payments, savings, and trading, which I'll remind you are the areas that Ondo Finance has been focusing on over the last year. Under the right regulatory environment, USDY could experience exponential growth, and this would create enormous revenue for Ondo Finance and set the stage for some of this revenue to accrue to the Ondo token. And this is why it's hard to figure out exactly how high Ondo could go. It depends on lots of factors that are currently unknown. With that in mind, though, we reckon that Ondo could, hear me out, be following Terra's Luna one cycle behind. Now, to be absolutely clear, Ondo Finance is absolutely nothing like Terra under the hood. But in terms of how big Ondo could grow as a result of USDY, Luna seems to be the best analog from the previous cycle. To put things into perspective, Luna hit a market cap of around $40 billion in 2021. And if Ondo follows one cycle behind, a $40 billion market cap would translate to an 8 to 9x from its current price, at least at the time of shooting. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot for a large cap crypto. Now, whether Ondo could pull a 9x or more fundamentally depends on its upcoming milestones. And the closest thing that Ondo Finance has to a roadmap is a blog post from January 2024. It's not entirely clear if these milestones still apply, so take them with a grain of salt. They could change by the time you see this video. The first milestone is the launch of an on-chain money market fund called OMFF, which apparently happened back in 2023, but is no longer noted on the Ondo Finance website or its documentation. It's possible that this is something Ondo Finance will bring back given the details of the second milestone. Naturally, the second milestone is to bring more assets on-chain, not just bonds. And now, to our understanding, this will be achieved with the help of the new tool called Ondo Global Markets, which was revealed last February and launched just last week. In short, Ondo Global Markets will make it possible to ensure that tokenized real-world assets have enough on-chain liquidity, something necessary for RWAs to thrive. The third milestone relates to the second, and that's to create more RWA-specific infrastructure to ensure that the niche continues to grow. The blog post doesn't specify what kind of infrastructure Ondo Finance has in mind, but it looks like most of the infrastructure will be provided by other protocols, such as Layer 0. And this brings me to the challenges that we foresee for Ondo Finance. And the first challenge is, well, adoption. As I noted earlier, USDY is the ideal stablecoin, at least in theory. In practice, network effects are the most important factor for stablecoins, and USDY is going to have a very hard time competing with USDC and USDT on this front. And that's simply because USDY's primary appeal is that it can earn a yield. The thing is that you can also earn a yield on USDC and USDT by lending it out in DeFi protocols. Unless the demand for USDC and USDT somehow falls, the yield for lending it out will always be higher than from holding USDY, which will probably not be lent out very much since borrowing a yield-bearing stablecoin means debts rise faster. When you realize that PayPal's PYUSD stablecoin is likely to dominate payments, you understand that the only real utility that USDY could offer is as collateral in DeFi to borrow other stablecoins like USDC, or as collateral on centralized exchanges for margin trading, which is one place where USDY could dominate. And this ties into Ondo Finance's second challenge, though, and that's the sustainability of yields. Now, if you think about it, the main reason why tokenized treasuries have become so popular is because interest rates have been rising in recent years. Not sure if you've noticed, but interest rates are slowly starting to come down. Barring a resurgence in inflation, the Fed is likely to continue cutting interest rates. And this will make USDY and OUSG gradually less appealing to investors. The silver lining is that Ondo Finance could mitigate against this by expanding its tokenized RWA offerings, and it seems to be planning to do just that. And this relates to Ondo Finance's third challenge, though, and that's the competition it faces outside of stablecoins and tokenized bonds. In case it wasn't clear enough, Ondo seems to be leaning heavily on USDY and OUSG for its success. And this could prove to be a suboptimal strategy for the reasons I just noted. And as I just noted, Ondo Finance could mitigate against this by expanding its tokenized RWA offerings, but this would then put it in competition with other crypto projects that have been working on tokenizing other assets for much longer than Ondo Finance has. The silver lining in this case, though, is that there actually don't seem to be very many crypto projects tokenizing assets outside of US government debt. The result could be that Ondo Finance gets a first-mover advantage in a niche that currently doesn't have very much competition, like tokenized stocks, for example. Again, it seems that this is something that Ondo Finance is planning on doing, or at least was early last year. And I'll repeat that with the right regulations, Ondo could experience exponential growth with just the products it currently has. All things considered, though, it definitely is an RWA blue chip and one worth watching. However, if you're looking for an RWA crypto that could 50 or 100x, Ondo probably isn't it. And if you've been paying attention, you'll know where you can find those kinds of crypto projects. And if you missed it, it's the Coin Bureau Club. The link to sign up will be down below. Now, if you enjoyed that video, be sure to watch our latest one right over here. And if you're not subscribed yet, then you can do that right over here. That's me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.